Okay, it is Wednesday, August 30th, 2023. This is the American Micro Podcast. I am Anthony Pago, and as Rodney said, summer is pretty much over. So, Rodney, tell me who you are, where you're from, and how your summer's been.
I'm here in the Big Be More Careful, Baltimore, Maryland, and it's just been a summer of cutting lawns and hanging out, literally like not doing a whole lot of anything, just playing music in my studio, and it's just been like this. It's like there's nothing going on in my world. You know what I mean? Like where's there to go? What is there to do? You know, that's how it feels, man. I mean, I don't really get it, but
So, literally watching the grass grow and just waiting until you can cut it again.
I yeah, I'm watching paint dry, dude. Yeah, I'm watching paint dry. I mean, I'm literally like, I've got all this. I mean, I've written a lot of stuff, but yeah, just wait. I just wait every week for the grass to grow and I just cut it. And then I go shopping. I mean, I might go to, I go to my mom's house, but, you know, by and large, man, yeah, there's nothing going on in the mid Atlantic region of America. I mean, I'm sure there is, I'm sure that there are people out there who are like vacationing, hence the topic, but it's like now I just don't see anything happening, man. You can't really. There. Oh, let me put it like this: I would love to go to an open mic and just play. There are none in my area. They're like an
Yeah.
hour and a half away. They're like in Northern Virginia, or I'd have to drive into Baltimore at night, and I'm like, I don't want to do that. I don't want to do that. I don't want to go to. I mean, what? Get in the car and drive to New York? I'm not going to New York. I'm not going to the city.
Yeah.
Oh man, I'm not. I'm not going to Philly. I'm not going to. I got a buddy in Tampa. He's like, man, come down to Tampa. I'm like, are you kidding me? I'm not going to Florida. Like I'm gonna go to Florida? No, bro. I'm not going down there.
Yeah, we drove to Tulsa a couple times. Something went to the aquarium. There was a couple concerts like listed, but every time we'd look, the only place we could find the closest venue we could find is in Dallas, Tulsa for another one.
No.
The only thing we've done really is we were invited to go to float a river. I don't know if anybody watching knows what floating a river is, but it's really a creek. It's not a river. You get in tubes, like old tubes that used to fill up tires, and you like push off the edge of the creek, and then just hours floating down the river with a group of friends. Sometimes you tie off, and you have like a um, you kind of have to have a cooler floating with you to have hydration. A lot of people put lots of alcohol in there. Um,
Yeah, that's not
we
good.
right. I'm working though. I'm working when everybody's going on the float trip, so I won't be making the float trip.
Right.
I'm kind of tired of the pools. Like going to somebody's pool is just kind of I'm burnt out on that already. So not really. I guess I'm done with summer, and there's not really going to be a summer vacation this year for me. So
Dude, so why aren't people going on vacations, bro?
I
I
mean,
mean,
I
there's a
I
ton.
have I have a guess. I think it's because people are stressed out and they're broke. But why don't you tell me, run through the list?
So, okay, all right. We live in America. Yeah, all right. Um, so when I was a kid, we used to we used to go somewhere, in the summertime. We drive down to Texas. I mean, we would drive all the way from Maryland to Texas to see our grandmothers and our aunts and our cousins, stuff like that. And even when I was like in the 80s, when I was in the Marine Corps, I'd go places. I would just, on the weekend, we'd go up to, like, we were stationed at Camp Lejeune. we'd go up to like North Carolina State and party at the college, or we'd go down to Myrtle Beach, or you know we'd go down to Atlanta or Savannah or something like that, and we just hang out. Or to Nashville, we just go down there and hang out. But you could do that back then because gas was what, 37 cents a gallon or something like that. But now that everything is so unbelievably expensive, people have to work more, right? So that's one of the major things. It's just your work demand, and like the increasing workloads and the pressure to stay consistently, or I should say, constantly connected to work. It's unbelievably hard to get out of work and say, "Oh, I'm going on vacation." Like, who gives you 1 week or 2 weeks of vacation anyways anymore? Nobody. Okay.
Well, yeah, Europeans do. They give you,
yeah.
They give you a month.
yeah. They give you a lot of things that we don't have.
Yeah.
They're just, yeah, dude, that's a whole nother podcast.
Right.
But yeah, and think about this, dude. Think about how your iPhone or your smartphone is consistently connected to you, and it what it does is it blurs the lines between work and leisure. Like, you're always on your phone. Someone is always calling you. Like, you know what I mean? If they're not calling you, they're texting you. If they're not texting you, they're emailing you. The challenge, I dare anyone to put their phone down and go outside and get in your car and drive. I dare anyone to leave their phone at home.
Yeah.
Because all of your responsibilities are glued to that phone. So you can never truly detach from the technological world. Also, this is a big one, dude. Economic instability, or personal finances. Like, no one who can afford. You can't even afford. I can't even pay for my apartment. Like, how am I going to go on go where? With who? Like, right. Am I going to go by myself? Like, I've got 2 kids. I've got 3 kids. I've got a husband. I've got 2 car payments. There's just no way that's good. And gas. What? Gas, depending on where you are, could be anywhere from $3 to $4 a gallon. So you're going to spend a ton of money on gas. On top of having no time off, and you tell your boss, you're like, "Hey, man, my cousin's getting married." Let's just say you live in Baltimore. Your cousin's getting married in New York, and the wedding's on a Saturday, right? So you're going to leave Friday. You're going to drive. And hey, but can I just need the day off on Monday? Nah, dude, we can't afford. You need to be here. I can't afford to. I need you on. You're the production manager. I can't afford to leave. Dude, all I need is one. Go ahead.
This point. I understand if, like, you're the production manager and there's not another production manager or something like that, but it doesn't seem like it is evident now that companies have transitioned from having a little bit, I say the word extra hesitantly, having enough staffing to deal with life, with people, with employees having life like that, to going to a bare bones minimum staffing, so that they say we can't afford, and it's true, because they're at bare bones. If they're without these employees, then the manager has to cover, like, what would be to them a menial job, something they're overpaid for and maybe not qualified to do. But that's not the way we used to run jobs. We used to have multiple people who could cover certain things. It's not necessarily that we had multiple production managers, but we had somebody near enough to that position and qualified or trained well enough that they could manage a day or two, so that you don't just get run over, or production doesn't halt. So we've changed the way we treat businesses. They run bare bones to increase their profits because they're paying fewer people if they run on a bare bones staff.
Isn't that crazy? And don't forget, I mean, if you, I mean, think about it this way. Like, so when I moved to California in 1992, we rented a house up in the Hollywood Hills for like, wasn't even, it was probably, what was it, 550, almost like $600 a month. This is in 1992, right? Time goes on, time flies. All of a sudden, that house, you can't even get in that house anymore. If you wanted to rent it, it'd probably cost you like $3,500 a month.
Uh-huh.
That's just inflation, right? And or it's just the a situation where I'll give you a great example. So in 1932, if you bought something that cost like, I think it's like $4,500. No, it's like, yeah, I think it was like, no, it was $3,500. That same item that you bought in 1932 today would cost you $105,000. So, I mean, each day, each week, each month that goes by, your quality of life dissipates, and it's just getting worse and worse and worse. On top of just having family responsibilities. So there's inflation, there's family responsibilities, caring for children, your parents, and that makes it a challenge to find time for vacation. And also the fact that just because you have a day job doesn't mean you don't have a side gig or a part-time job. So you're working a part-time job, so that's two jobs that you have. Your wife's working a part-time job, or your partner's working a part-time job, or your husband's working a part-time job. You know what I mean? Where do you find the time to even think about? On top of health, on top of environmental awareness. I mean, there's so much stuff. I mean, so I'm just going to blow through some other things here.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, sure.
Remote work. So remote work, blurring the lines. Working from home, like you just get so sedentary in your cave. Urbanization. As people migrate to urban areas, the demands of city life can sometimes leave little room for extended breaks. Dude, this is a big one. Social media pressure. Seeing like when you're looking, because it's so unrealistic, dude. That people, not 95% of us don't live like that. We don't. Seeing others, extravagant vacations that they take. Like I see these things online or on TV, or now I don't watch TV, online, where these people are just taking, like, we're going to Malta, or we're going to Greece, or we're going to Aruba. I'm like, dude, who's got Jamaica Aruba money? I did, though, have a friend and her husband who just packed up everything. They just moved to Belize, dude. They're
Wow.
like, we're done. I'm like,
Mm-hmm.
like, we're done, man. We're done. And I think one of the biggest things right now for just about anyone is just your wages, and job insecurity, because people aren't getting paid what they're worth. And a lot of people aren't working. A lot of people have taken, a backseat to just like, hey, I'm just going to downsize, and whatever I need to do to just survive, that's what I'm going to do. And
Well, okay, so I know you're tearing through stuff, but let me interject on that. You said who
no,
has,
yeah, go for it. That's why I'm saying it.
I think you said who has Aruba money. I think Aruba was the example that you gave. Aruba and something
Yeah.
else, maybe. So I'll tell you who has it. CEOs have it. Let me give you a little stat here. Uh, so from 1978 to 1921, CEO pay grew by 1,460% adjusted for inflation, versus 18.1% for the typical worker. So 1,460% versus 18% is the difference between what CEOs are getting paid more and just you and I, the average worker. Um, Even during the pandemic, CEO pay increased by 30% compared with just 4% for the average employee. So that's why you've got a lot of strikes and stuff going on. I've been looking into some of the travel issues this year, and the more economy airlines like JetBlue specifically in the Northeast. I know
Mhm.
their coverage isn't like as wide as a lot of others. That's kind of why they're trying to merge with Spirit Airlines. They're requesting the permission to do that so that they
Mhm.
can have more of the market out west. But they did the worst out of their competition. Between them and their competition this year, their reportings were pretty dismal, and they've been getting worse over the last few years. And so I think the budget airlines aren't doing quite as well because you're starting to see people who were barely keeping their heads above water and had just enough money to save maybe for that one vacation are finally being priced out. And you're seeing the higher airlines, the higher priced airlines, still doing well because those who are in the upper tiers haven't been priced out quite yet, especially, of course, CEOs and the higher paid jobs. And there's a few other stats that I was reading where they're talking about, like Bermuda is an example, but there's a few others where they're the recidivism or the number of visitors they're having this year compared to even last year and kind of immediate pandemic, post-pandemic era, has shrunk drastically. And they're saying the excuse they're giving is that it's a destination. Oh, what was the term? Like destination exhaustion, something like that. They're tired of the same place. This doesn't really sound like a real thing to me. I think that
Mhm.
you're losing a diversified range of people who can afford to go to Bermuda, and the people who love it that much and have all the money to do multiple vacations per year, which happens all the time. Some people spend their summer kind of vacationing, especially the rich people, right? Um, they are still able to go to Bermuda, but some people are not, and that would account for the numbers dropping. So I have my suspicions that we're seeing a fall in certain demographics, which translates into a lowering of like visitation and income for tourist destinations, and we're starting to see some of those numbers peak up their peak up its head, peak up their heads, and we're blaming them on things that I don't think we're going to find out are actually the causes. So that's just my 2 cents on that. If you want to continue on with the list.
No, no, it's actually, yeah, you're right. It's just like how can I say a type of propaganda that they use to unfortunately keep us in our place. You know what I mean? You know, dude, uh, you know how? Okay, let me give you an example. After 9/11, I was, I'd already bought. Well, hold on. After 9/11, I went to Brazil. My round trip ticket to Brazil was $800. Okay, that was in, yeah, right after 9/11. And then I went to Brazil again in 2004. That ticket was almost $1,500, man, round trip. Okay, and literally it stayed that way. I went a couple more times, but now a round trip ticket to Brazil is like $2,100. I think pretty close. Um, yeah, I mean it's it's almost like you could live in San Diego and not be able to afford to go to the San Diego Zoo. That's how bad it is. You know what I mean? Like where are we going to go for vacation? We're going to go to the zoo. We're not going anywhere. We're going to go to Mexico. We're going to cross the border, and we're going to go to Baja. We're going to go to Ensenada. That's it. We're going to chill out down there. We're not going anywhere.
Yeah.
People don't have, especially um, younger people. Younger people just don't have the money. They just don't. I mean, so look, you've got job insecurity. You don't have, people don't, on top of job insecurity, people do not have discretionary spending anymore. Okay. Um, and that's because of, there's inflation and then there's stagflation, right? So, um, and so so I looked this up. The top 10 reasons how the economy and stagflation have played a role in the American lifestyle, otherwise known as can I go on vacation? The answer is no. Um, so, uh, so it says that economic factors, particularly stagflation, have had a significant impact on the American lifestyle over the last so many years. Stagflation is a term used to describe a combination of stagnant economy growth, high unemployment, and high inflation. This unique economic situation can shape various aspects of people's lives, and here are the top 10 ways in which the economy and stagflation have influenced the American lifestyle. So I'm just going to go over these really quick. Job insecurity and career choices, income levels, and discretionary spending. These are the reasons why people aren't doing as well. Consumer behavior. I'm going to read this one. High inflation can erode purchasing power. What? Causing I don't mean to say it like that, but it's so bad, dude. Causing consumers to be more cautious about spending. So people aren't going to spend money on vacations, dude. They're just
Yeah.
not going to do it. You know, they, people, Americans by and large are going to prioritize essential goods and services over luxury items, otherwise known as vacations. Savings and investments, housing market, education and student loans. If you tried to go to school from the last 25 years, you're probably, if you went to school in the last 25 years and you got a degree, or even if you didn't get a degree, you're probably in debt. Retirement planning. I know a lot of my friends were like, I'm gonna work until I drop dead. Travel and leisure, family dynamics. And I'm going to read this one too. Economic stressors during stagflation can affect family dynamics. Financial concerns can lead to increased stress and impact decisions related to family planning, household budgets, etc. So the moral of the story is it's important to note that these effects of stagflation and the economy on the American lifestyle can be based on the severity and duration of these economic conditions, as well as government policies and global economic factors. Additionally, the way individuals and families respond to these challenges can differ based on their financial literacy, personal values. Ooh, that's a big one, financial literacy, personal values, and resilience in the face of economic uncertainty.
Yeah, I mean, okay, so I can see where somebody might come in and argue against stagflation by saying, well, um, unemployment, at least under Biden, has gone down, which is understandable considering we went through the pandemic, which was worsened by the last president. But unemployment is low. However, it doesn't totally keep in mind the way we use that metric here in America or in the United States. We don't really count people who have quit looking for a job, so that can be
True.
skewed one way or the other. And one of the other conditions that I wouldn't agree with that would say it would allow somebody to argue for stagflation is that the economy isn't doing well. Well, the economy is actually doing really well for corporations and for their stockholders, but not so well for the workers. And one of the ways you can kind of see that in the words you hear from the common workers, there was this guy who is one of the heads of like or at least he's a member of the UAW, the United Auto Workers Union. I think he's actually in the pocket of like um, one of the big three, trying to keep the unions from getting like more of their fair share. I think they're asking for like 46% raise because one of the CEOs got that, and they say, hey, we our workers deserve that, if not more. And he put out a video where he was kind of like saying, hey, I'm your buddy friend who's also a union guy, but like we're only going to hurt ourselves by asking for raises because that's going to give international workers a chance to get our jobs. And he was trying to scare them with some hocus pocus kind of energy. And
Yeah.
what he mentioned, which was kind of like yes, this story is prevalent throughout America and is told by a lot of unaware parents who are or grandparents right now, grandparents to parents who are unaware how hard their children have it, where they discuss how well I worked my way through paying off my college debt, my university bills, and he mentioned that with inflation accounted for, he worked his summer job to pay his college tuition. Didn't have to take out a loan because a loan wasn't a consideration for him. He just knew better than to go into debt. And I'm like, oh, that sounds great, dude. He said that with inflation, for his summer intern job at a car factory in Detroit, he was paid 60 something dollars an hour. This is an intern for a summer job is
Jeez,
paid
that's a
60.
lot of money, dude.
Yeah, think about like that's like, like people today would say this is a job that's just like slightly over working, at McDonald's or something. Like McDonald's would be like what, 15, 16 bucks an hour, and
Yeah.
you work at an auto factory, you might get 19 bucks an hour. You might get the highest paid auto workers for those unions right now is $39 an hour.
That's
That's their highest paid.
that's close to $2,500 a week, dude.
Yeah.
On a 40-hour week.
So he was making bank, and this was in the 70s. This was in the 70s. He was making
Jesus Lord,
so much
dude.
money that he could just pay cash for his college. And so what these people who say, union type people are being greedy, and you're going to scare away these jobs to overseas. Well, first of all, the only person who can take those jobs away are the CEOs, are the corporations who are looking for uh, higher numbers in their own pocket. So it's not the fault of workers. If they want to pay those workers more, they can. They're making plenty of profit. If they want to give those jobs away for cheaper labor for increased profits, that's their fault. That's not the workers' fault for seeking better pay, for better lifestyle, for more vacation time, for things of that nature. We see in the way the CEO pay growing so exorbitantly that they're not lacking for profits. In fact, them keeping the pay low for these workers and keeping them from being able to go and take vacations, they're being rewarded for that richly. So I don't want anybody to blame themselves for having a poorly paying job or less pay than you think you deserve. Don't be embarrassed by this. There's an effort to keep you low paid and to ensure that you feel guilty, to guilt you and tell you that they can't afford to lose you for the weekend. They will also tell you that you're part of the family, you're their best friend. That's all part of the effort to make sure you feel guilt about asking for a few days off when over in European nations they get a month off. They get a month off and they are paid. They're not just like, maybe you have a job when you get back, maybe you don't. They're paid. They come back to a job. It's required by law. And here they're going to tell you if you're gone Monday, if you just take Monday off to do your vacation from Friday when you get off shift, return Tuesday morning, you might not have a job when you get back. And that's the fear of God being put in you on purpose to keep your wages low, to keep your workload high. So that's not your fault. Everybody's going through that here.
That's insane. It's just. I mean, you know, okay. I mean, imagine this, dude. It's 1963, 64, 65, 70, 71, 72, whatever. And you're working in Detroit, for Ford or whomever, whatever auto, or you're working in Baltimore for Bethlehem Steel, you have a job, you have a union, right? And then, you know, in the back of your head, like you're like, this is going to go on forever. My kids are going to work here. Their kids are going to work here. You know, um, but you just don't see the automation, and you don't see the technology that's just it's probably already been built, and they're just waiting to use it to enhance their bottom line. Um, there's a ton of there are tons of reasons why there's I would literally call it the decline of the American worker. Like right now, if you walk into and does this have everything to do with not being able to go on vacation, not being able to vote, to afford sending your son or daughter to the prom, or you know my tuition, I think I told you this, was $314 a semester at the University of Maryland. This guy wasn't paying a lot of money. It doesn't matter where he was going. He was not. He was making $60 an hour.
Well, that's with inflation accounted for, so I would have to find the interview again, but
But
whatever.
still, but
Yeah.
still, dude. My tuition. I went to Maryland. I paid $5,000 for 4 years. That's it.
Yeah, and he had the option to buy a home at $20,000, back then as well in the 70s. So yeah, things are a bit different. People are paying more for tuition, for home, for food. They're doing, minimum 5-day work days. They're also not getting benefits that full. So a lot of these jobs in America blanket, not just like auto workers in Detroit, offer these great packages, proclaiming, hey, we pay our full-time workers equivalent to $100,000 a year or
Mm.
whatever, even more than that. And the great trick that corporations like Walmart taught everybody in the nation is to pay them, or to put them on the schedule for 39 hours, so that they don't get the full benefits. And we've been slowly transitioning towards that
It's
for
been
more
like
and
that
more and
forever,
more
dude.
workers.
It's been like that forever.
Yeah.
I worked for a construction company. I was one of their um, marketing reps and sales. I was a marketing rep and a sales rep, and we only worked 39 hours. And then as a um, as a sales rep, you were a contractor, so there was no way. Yeah, you were like you weren't W-2, you know. So yeah, I mean, wage stagnation, the decline of manufacturing, the erosion of labor unions. There's a reason why people are mad. And here's another thing. Um, there's there's going to come a time, and I think we've talked about this over and over and over, but I really believe there's going to come a time, like I think there's like 500,000 homeless. That number could be skewed because you can't really do a census on how many people are homeless in this country. It's probably close to 1 million, right? So, but when these tents when these tent cities start popping up outside of gated communities, that's when it's going to hit the fan, dude. That's when life as we know it is going to change, because these people are going to come out with the pitchforks. There are going to be, there will be a ton of have-nots soon, you know, and it's not going to be just about, hey, I can't go on vacation. It's going to be a situation where, oh, you're too old to get a job. Oh, you don't have a bachelor's degree or a master's degree. Oh, you're in my case, I walk in the door. You're Rodney Hubbard. Oh, I didn't know you're black. I've had people say that to my face, bro.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? racial and gender inequalities, just just people with just lack of job training. I mean, and then we've got, yeah, I mean, literally people who just don't have the training or haven't been given. I mean, it's great you can go online and you can do ABC, but I mean, do you have the training to sit down on a phone with three screens and sell something to someone that you've never met before? AI is going to take a lot of these to AI artificial. Yeah, dude, you and I both know that AI technology is going to take away a lot of jobs.
Yeah.
You've got the opioid crisis. You've got, yeah, people are, I'm feeling bad. I'm going to check out. I'm going to do some drugs. That's what I'm going to do.
Yeah. Which, by the way, just to interject a little bit of news, if anybody's watching this in the first week of September or later, you will be able to get over-the-counter Narcan to save the life of anybody that you find going through an opioid overdose. So that's available. Go pick some up if you have somebody in your life that has that problem and is at risk of ODing, which is a large number of people in the American populace today, thanks to the reasons we are listing today in this podcast. So just wanted to interject that little bit of sort of good, awful news, like terrible news that we need to know it, but yeah.
Man, I was in this live a couple days ago, and it was, a lot of people like, 50, 55, 60 years old. And I said, when I was a kid, the only like real technology I ever knew about it besides Gemini and Apollo, the and NASA was like what I could literally see with my own eyes were the Jetsons, and everyone just cracked up, and because little did we know, we how can I say this? I'm trying to like put this in a way where it's like, I thought we would be so much more economically diverse than we are now. Like, because I mean, robotics are taking over. There are grocery stores that you walk in and there's only one checkout counter. The rest is all it's all self checkout.
Mm-hmm.
Like 7 or 8 stations. Like no one. There's like two people who work, and the rest is like it's. I mean, like at Food Lion, I go there every once in a while. They've got 1, 2, 3, 4. They took out basically what they did was they got rid of at least four, maybe 8 jobs, because I'm sure they work on shift. So they probably got rid of anywhere from 8 to 12 jobs just by putting in those 4 self checkout counters. Think about that.
Yeah.
I mean, these things, these are some factors that just, contribute to the decline of America and the American worker. So maybe you do have the ability to work at a place like that, but maybe they don't have the room because they're just looking for the bottom line. So where do these people go to work?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. I'd like to also bring up the point that there are certain, and I'm not saying like the whole spectrum of certain demographics, but certainly with Black individuals and Native Americans, it's been a big problem. Yeah, BIPOC. There were issues like redlining, but just kind of the downturn of people of color's economy intentionally through systemic issues created to keep them from getting a share of the pie, and other cultural reasons have limited our exposure to certain types of vacations, to being able to go out. I mean, I know you don't have to imagine, but I'm speaking to people who have never had to do this. There used to be maps that Black people would have to share with each other that would show destinations you could stop in order to be safe, so that you wouldn't end up in a sundown town and risk having your family, murdered or worse. And I know you say what could be worse than murdering. There is worse.
Oh, there's worse.
So so imagine like not being able to like stop in certain towns, and then you have to imagine there are camps that wouldn't allow people of color for a long time. They're still hyper inclusive, I guess, is that the certain camps that aren't as diversified as they should be. Thankfully, there are like some black specialized camps, ones that started a while back and that have kind of become larger in recent years. And there are some historically kind of white only camps that have become diversified and are increasingly so. So I'm not saying that everything is still awful or that it's becoming, more and more worse for everybody, but that has been an issue that has kind of kept vacationing from being a generational thing, as well as we like to talk on this channel a lot about like generational wealth. Well, wealth isn't just money. There's also cultural experiences like going on vacation. And when you're, a family of color and you're not able to pass down the same types of like hiking mountains, like climbing a mountain or swimming, swimming on a little beach in a river while you fly fish or whatever, and not able to pass that down to your kids, and they're not able to pass that down to their kids. That type of thing just isn't continued on generationally. It doesn't spread through the many families that get kind of tree branched off from a core family. So I would like to acknowledge to a lot of people that there's been an issue in America for having like let's go back to mountain climbing, having a lot of mountain climbers that were black. There's an organization, I can't remember the name of it, we'll have to look it up, that spent time over the last decade actually asking black mountaineers to send in photos of themselves so that they could populate their websites and a hashtag with photos of black mountaineers, which I think is a wonderful program to encourage other, black kids and people of color to learn about the equipment and to seek that as an aspiration to have these heroes. And as long as we're on the topic of like heroes, in order to give people of color, or anybody, anybody's welcome to these heroes. One of them is Charles Madison Crenshaw. He actually was a Tuskegee Airman. He was a Master Sergeant in the U.S. Army Air Corps. He actually worked, you mentioned Apollo. He worked for NASA for a while, doing some of their equipment and stuff. And he was the first black guy, first black person to summit Mount McKinley, which we now call, what is Mount McKinley called now? It's not called Mount McKinley anymore. I can't remember the name of it. But
It's not.
that's no, they changed the name of it. I know, we're old. We remember
Let
Mount
me see.
McKinley. Um,
Yeah,
it's yeah. Please check that out. It's the
I
tallest
will.
mountaintop we've got that we can climb here,
In
and
Alaska.
he did that with the largest single group, 18 people. Oh, it's Denali. It's called Denali.
Yeah.
Um, he had an 18-person crew. That was actually like the crew with the largest number of women. I don't know if that record still stands, but it did for a long time. It also had the largest number of women in a group. It had 3 women in its group. But he actually did that climb a week after the "I Have a Dream" speech, where at the very end of the speech there was like, from mountaintop to mountaintop. What was that? Can you look up that quote? The end of the "I Have a Dream" speech, the mountaintop segment.
Sure.
So it was
One second here.
interesting
I'm
that
gonna see how
like,
tall this. Woo!
sure,
It's big. 20,310 feet.
that is a lot of feet.
Denali. Yeah. Hmm.
Yeah, I don't know that I would be huffing and puffing. I don't know that I could make it. I mean, if it took a Tuskegee Airman to get up there, I'm not sure that I could do that after my decades of just being a couch-bound graphic designer, former musician, and
Right on.
painter.
Hey, so hold on real quick. What was the Martin Luther King? What did you want me to
the
look at?
the I Have a Dream, the very end of it, he talks about from like valley to valley, mountaintop to mountaintop. I can't remember the exact the phrasings, but the mountain part of his, it's
I'll
towards
look it
the
up right
end.
now.
Yeah. And it was a week after he mentioned like from mountain to mountaintop, he wants equality, and he wants everybody to have access to all of these dreams. And just a week after he mentioned probably that metaphorical phrase, Crenshaw literally performed that task and gave people of color, but everybody, every American, another hero to look up to. So that was July 9th, 1964, when he summited Denali, the highest peak in North America.
So what it says is, let me see, maybe that was, well, what it says is I have a dream that my four little children will one day live in a nation where they will not be judged by the color of their skin, but by the content of their character. Um, that's pretty much it.
There
I mean,
was
that's the
there was a
end.
mountain top quote.
Okay, well,
Uh,
hold on, hold on. King Mountaintop quote.
well, that's gonna give.
Let me see.
He's
Hold
been
on.
to. There was one where he said, "I've been to the mountaintop." That's different.
That was. Let me see here. Oh yeah, this content may violate.
Gosh,
I've
I
been
wish
to
I
the
could remember.
mountaintop. It was
Yeah,
April 3rd. Yeah, they're not going
that's
to
not
show
the
it on
quote.
here.
That's not the quote I was looking for though.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's all right. We'll figure it out. He mentioned some
No worries.
mountains. He mentioned some other figures of America that he wants people to all be a part of experiencing, regardless of their the color of their skin. But the content of our character should get us there, and should earn the respect of others as well. And
Yeah.
that's what Crenshaw got done, which is great. That's fantastic. I'm glad we got another hero shortly after MLK performed that speech. So,
No, I mean, here we are, what, 68, we'll just say 60s. Here we are 65, 70 years later. And, you know, I mean, two truckers can't even sit in a dude. This happened like 2 days ago. These two truckers they went to a truck stop in Sioux City, South Dakota. I think it's in South Dakota. Anyways, it was just 2 days ago. They were sat in Denny's for an hour, and the waitress said, "We're not going to serve you. You need to leave, or we're going to call the police." What?
right.
They're both black. This is 2 days ago, man. 3 days. I was like sometime in the last week.
Yeah, and this wasn't,
You know,
that wasn't limited to counters. That was everywhere, including vacations. You could show up to a
yep.
beachside and be told to leave. Remember, they were emptying pools just so that black people couldn't
They
swim.
were
So
putting concrete in pools, dude.
it's insane.
They were concreting pools, pouring acid in pools, bro.
Yeah.
They're doing their guy. A guy lives in his own apartment. He lives in this apartment building. Comes downstairs. He's hanging out at this pool. Some woman says, "What are you doing here?" He goes, "I live here." He's like, "Well, let me see your card key." She calls the manager. The manager says, "Maybe you should just leave and go back to your apartment." He's like, "What?" They call the cops, and he's just like, "I'm not going anywhere. I live here." And the cops like, "Well, there's nothing we can do about it. He lives here. Blah blah blah." It just, yeah, that's definitely something. The racial aspect of this, where are you going to go? And why do I need to go there? I'm not going. People used to go to Florida all the time. Used to go to Disney World. No, dude, they have a travel warning for black people in Florida now. Are you kidding? If you're BIPOC, if you're black indigenous, like if you're Latino, if you're unless you're Cuban in Florida, it's just crazy, man. You know,
Yeah,
all I want.
there's a
Go ahead.
travel warning from Canadians saying that if you are trans or, I'm sure just LGBTQ, not to come to America, which just says a whole lot. Like we're not going to end these wars on people that are the newest target. It's just going to continue.
Well, I mean, end of the day, I mean, do you really need to take a vacation? Do you? Or, when you get that week off, do you want to just sit in your house and do nothing and go out and, you know, and maybe you take that week off in December and just get ready for Christmas, or in November, just get ready for Thanksgiving. If you're into that, I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, I'm of the mind you can take the cheapest vacation you can nearest the richest people and hop over their fence and flip them off, and then hop back over the fence and drive back home and have a better time with each other away from the rich people. But yeah, no, I'm with you. Like I'm this year not going to be able to afford to go and do something great and fun, and I know that that's a lot of people are in that kind of mindset. And I'm not saying everybody should like skip vacations like forever. But we got to be more mindful also for the environment. I think you mentioned the environment earlier.
Yep.
I mentioned that there's a lot of rich people who do just jet setting during the summer. Like, you'd have poor people kind of like talking to their rich friends and be like, "Yeah, isn't this a great vacation? I'm glad we could be at this beach together." And then that would be it for the poor person, and the rich person will be like, "Okay, well, I'm off to the Hamptons," and then they'd be off to Switzerland, the week after that one. That was just kind of the way rich people did it back then, and a lot of them still do. Uh, and that is why, because that type of like unconcerned nature for travel and its impacts on the environment occurs the wealthier you get. That is why rich people and companies disproportionately have more effect on our carbon issue, on our greenhouse gas issues. And we need to remind them if we have any of their ears. I certainly don't have a lot of rich people's ears. But if you do, if you have somebody's ear, remind them it's a little bit wiser, or at least it's better for their children and their children's children, to pick one vacation. Don't pick three. Nobody needs three vacations. If some of us don't need one, if we all need to be more frugal and deal with what limited resources we've got, well, our world is a resource too, and the people who have the money to take endless vacations all summer need to start being responsible as well. If us people with less money need to be more responsible, so remind them that they should probably just pick one vacation and not fly all summer long.
Or if there's some island that's in flames, don't go.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
then
Okay. Well, no, no, wait. I'll put a little bit of information onto that. Just today, the Hawaiian Travel Authority said that they're reinviting everybody back out except for to the West Islands or the west side of Maui. They're inviting them specifically back to Maui, but West Maui is still off limits. So
no, I
they're
said while it's burning. There
while
were
it's burning.
people
Yeah,
going on vacation to the
yeah.
island while I'm just like,
Yeah,
dude,
while it's
really?
burning, don't be a dummy. Don't just like peek your head over there. Don't even like just kind of push your plans back a little bit.
Oh, and
Okay, I'm
Oprah,
sorry, but
hey Oprah, quit buying up all the land now.
yeah. Well, thankfully, a lot of people, yeah, right, Oprah, like, do you really need the Hawaiians' land? At least gift it to them in your will after they're gone, not to
Jesus
some dog or
Christ,
something.
dude.
The people somewhat did their job. The Hawaiian travel authorities said that travel went from 8,000 people a day to Maui down to 2,000 people a day. So I'm not saying everybody, did their job during that time period, but a
Mm.
lot of people got the message and said, okay, let's not interrupt their needs. The west side of Maui, it's about three or four major resorts out there, areas, kind of villages, are still to this day, but during the fires, all the weeks between now and the initial fires, have been losing $9 million a day, which is an
Wow.
incredible amount of money to lose for a tourist economy. I mean, some of these businesses are not going to be shutting down anytime soon because they were rich to begin with. Their CEOs were well paid, and these are just extremely wealthy organizations. But a lot of them are mom and pop shops too, and those are the people who are really hurting right now. And if you have the means and you want to go out to Hawaii, I guess the doors are back open, but don't go to the west side. Just maybe donate while you're there.
Let
If
me
you
take a
don't,
break real quick. I gotta use the restroom. I'll be right back.
sure, yeah, and I'll just mention to any listeners. Oh, okay, I'll go ahead and just I'll hit pause. We can pause it. All right, and we're back. So my final thought on Maui was that if you and I don't have the time nor money to fly out to Hawaii to Maui to reboot their economy, their tourist economy. But I don't have to go to Maui to help. There is this company, our friend JC works for them. It's a great company. We've been there on their, I don't know if they're called vineyards or orchards. I guess it's a plant. It's not a plantation. It's a farm. It's a farm,
Hmm.
I guess. But for pineapples, it's called Maui Gold. So Maui Gold is sending a certain portion of their proceeds over to directly to help with the recovery of Lahaina. So, it's all their proceeds go to fund the recovery of Lahaina. So, you can order Maui Gold pineapples and they will ship them to you. So, if you want to sit on your butt and help Lahaina and know that that money is getting there and also helping keep the economy alive in other ways, uh, get online, look up Maui Gold pineapples, and they will help you eat something delicious from Hawaii, and you can feel good about every single bite while you eat them. Um, so I found the quote that I was talking about with MLK, where it referred to mountains and stuff, just to kind of talk about Crenshaw. The week after this was spoken to the American people, I'm just going to read this kind of short paragraph. It says, "And if America is to be a great nation, this must become true. And so let freedom ring from the prodigious hilltops of New Hampshire. Let freedom ring from the mighty mountains of New York. Let freedom ring from the heightened, uh, oh gosh, Alleghenies of Pennsylvania. Let freedom ring,
Alleghenies.
Alleghenies. Let freedom
Yeah.
ring from the snow-capped Rockies of Colorado. Let freedom ring from the curvaceous slopes of California. But not only that, let freedom ring from the Stone Mountain of Georgia. Let freedom ring from the Lookout Mountain of Tennessee. Let freedom ring from every hill and every molehill of Mississippi. From every mountainside, let freedom ring." So after the week after he said that, and that's the second to last paragraph of that speech, Crenshaw went up that summit and showed everybody that a black man can too do anything that a white man can, given enough time and money, apparently.
It's all about resources, dude. It's all about resources. If you don't have resources, you don't get it. I mean, well, how come black kids don't do this and they don't that? They don't have the resources, dude.
Yeah,
They don't have
they,
the
they
they don't have the tax base. They've been redlined out of existence. Well, no, that doesn't. Yes, yeah, it does. I live in Baltimore. I see it every single day. You can't tell me that it doesn't exist. I
yeah.
see it. You know what I mean? It's like right in my face. So dude. Well, what about black on black crime? Well, what about World War II? Like Europeans have been killing each other for thousands of years. What are you talking about? Black on black crime. Do you know the amount of white on white crime? I'll shut
Right.
up.
No, no,
Just
no. You're
it's just
fine.
dude. It's just look at what's going on in Ukraine and Russia. I mean, are you kidding? Like that's not. It's a war, and it's criminal, but it's a war, and white people are killing white people. So yeah, there's that, and I mean, if you look at that and you try to come full circle and you try to tie it into the American, the demise of the American worker and the reason Americans can't go on vacation anymore, it's because power people in power um, own everything,
Yeah.
and it's
And
they're so derelict in their duties to help people who are uh, basically underwater right now, um, that can't they can't afford anything. They can't, and then you know what? On top of you not being able to afford anything, we're just going to invade your country, or we're going to bomb you into the Stone Age. Okay.
Right.
Or we're gonna tear we're gonna burn your town to the ground. We're gonna do whatever it takes to stay in power. We're going to divide and conquer. We're gonna make sure that the poor white guy, realizes that he's better than the black guy who's middle class. The white guy might be poor and he might be white, but at least he's not an N-word.
Right.
So, yeah, there's I mean, and who wants to go on vacation anymore, especially in America?
Yeah, and it's not just the politicians, although they're a great part of it, and it's not just the ultra wealthy either, and there are a lot of them. It's also the haves. I mean,
Yep.
I hate to say that this has kind of become a class war that's rearing its ugly head in the form of us not being able to take vacations, those of us who aren't the haves, but the haves now have so many properties that they're buying up more properties and turning them into Airbnbs, and you're finally starting to see complaints from them saying we are not booking in June and July when that used to be completely full. What's the deal? And it's like, well, you've bought all of the properties in these cities, and the rents have increased. The land values have increased because you overbought, you over bid on that home that you were going to turn into an Airbnb, and you raised the rents around you, and then all of those people had to spend more money on their rents while not getting paid more. And now when they want to vacation to the other city that you own properties in, you've raised your Airbnb nightly fee from, $200 like it used to be to $600 plus a $400 cleaning fee plus whatever. And nobody can afford to Airbnb anymore. Whereas that used to be a fairly affordable option to get somewhere closer to a vacation destination instead of having to pick a hotel in the middle of the city and then figure out how to get, time everything right and to get to your destination for fun and then get back to a place to sleep. It's just, class warfare is becoming so bad that it's actually starting to inversely affect the haves, and they're whining about it. And I'm not feeling too sorry for them as I'm having to figure out how to enjoy my summer without going anywhere. So don't feel too bad.
Well, yeah, I mean, a class system, a caste system, um, the denigration of people of color and poor white people. I mean, it's a thing. It's been real that way. But at the same time, what poor white people don't understand about who they are is that they still have privilege. You know what I mean? They still don't get that. Oh, I'm poor. I was born poor. Dude, you were born white in America. You have more. What's the word I'm looking for? There's no reason in this world that you can't move above anyone else of color in this country. There's just you can't tell me that's a thing, dude. You know, you want to
Right,
stay in.
like
Go ahead.
like stepping stones, you mean? Like
Yeah,
advantages
absolutely.
advantages.
And that's the
Sure.
word I was looking for. I can't believe it. Advantages. If you're born white in America, if you're a white Christian male in America, um, in in this century, you have more advantages than any person on the planet. I'm sorry. You can't. You know, maybe at some point, 100 years ago, 150 years ago, when the Irish and the Italians and the Slavs and the Polish weren't and the Germans weren't co-opted into the patriarchal white nationalist society that runs this country, political state that runs this country. Um, But no, I mean you can't say that now. You can't say it.
Well,
There's
there work the political elites that don't have our interests at heart, especially the ones that have aligned themselves with the white nationalists and the evangelicals, who, let's face it,
yeah.
are pretty white nationalists themselves, are working pretty hard to try to even the playing field by making everybody poor, so that black people and white people both have no power and no money, except for the ones who have the land and the money already. They're working hard to screw over while using that voting base, the people who vote for them to get that power, to screw us all over. They're working hard to make sure they become poor and disempowered as well. The carpet's being was tried to be yanked in 2020, well, 2016 through 2020, and in 2020, 21, they tried to yank that carpet out from underneath us, and we almost got a king. And they're going to try it again. And if we get that, color's not going to matter much anymore. It's going to be genocide for lots of different groups. I mean, people of color and the LGBTQ will be the first in line. That's true. But all of a sudden, you're going to see some white people being forced in lines, and they're not going to understand how they ended up there. And the truth is that it does really originate from kind of a class warfare thing, right now. Right now, there are people who are using, and I'm not saying racism doesn't exist. It does exist, and it still has continued on from the very awful origins that we've talked about through many of our podcasts, and that history is being used by extremely wealthy people to their advantage to try to take control so they can not just conquer us, but divide and conquer as if it's a sport. And while we're in those lines, waiting to be done away with, we're still going to fight amongst ourselves. They're still going to, and you know what? And I don't blame the people who have been mistreated. I'm one of them who have been mistreated for hundreds of years, for punching somebody in the mouth, metaphorically, for being a piece of shit and a white
Or even
nationalist.
literally, or even literally.
All the while. So I get it, and it's going to be rough times. I think you like to, not like to, but you do speak about those rough times, and there are people trying to get us there really fast. I don't know if they'll actually come about, but if by some miracle we'll get some people who manage to keep us from falling down into that big ravine. I have my hopes, but I also know how reality works, and reality says that there's a chance, there's at least a chance that somebody's going to get that throne and that scepter in their hands, and they're not going to want to let it go. And the easiest way to keep it is to throw the whole mess into chaos, be it the country or the world. So we have to keep our head on a swivel. Um, Maybe save some of that vacation money up to to uh, to build a bunker in the backyard. No, don't do that.
No,
Don't
it's
do
just,
that.
you know what I mean? It's like it's funny that you say that, because I mean, like the my home has just, I mean, I could my home is made out of, it's made out of stone. And I mean, the reason I love living in Baltimore is because it's a black city. And if you're crazy enough to come to Jesus, hey, and believe it or not, a lot of people come to Baltimore to go to on vacation because it's a beautiful city. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But if you're part of that, I don't know, 25% of Americans who have European descent that hate everything that doesn't look like you, and you want to come in here and act a fool, or the better term is, fuck around and find out.
Yeah.
Yeah, come on down. We'll
Right.
we'll we'll be waiting for you. Because that's just, did I just say that? Yeah, I said it. Because it's just, dude, no one wants to put up with it, dude. No, we're done. We're done. Anyways, yeah, take some of your vacation money. At this day and age right now, make sure you just, if you can't get to Bermuda or Maui or, Aruba or Brazil. I mean, I've been lucky, man. I've been lucky. I've been really blessed. I've been a lot of places in my life. I traveled as a child because my dad was in the military, and then I traveled as a young man because I was in the Marine Corps. I was all over the world. And then when I got out, I continued to travel. I went to South America a lot, and I'm gonna do so here in probably the next year or so. In the next, yeah, I took within the next year or so. Um, it's the world. Seeing the world gives you an education. It gives you the ability to look outside your own ignorance and your own protectionist ideology that a lot of Americans, not just white Americans, but a lot of Americans of all stripes of all denominations, of all ethnic backgrounds. A lot of Americans have a very protectionist uh, mindset. But travel gives you the ability to educate yourselves without opening a book or going on YouTube. I mean, you need to feel the dirt. You need to have the dirt underneath your hands. You need to actually step in the water to understand exactly what these places are. And I've had that. I've had that chance, and so have you.
Yep. Yep.
So yeah. That being
I
said,
agree. That's the highest form of education I've had was to be able to step outside of myself and the culture that surrounded me all of my childhood, and to get a greater understanding of the different types of people and their cultures, how diversified that was, and then to get some peek at the diversity the world must have if all of these places only states away we're so different. All of these people and these cultures, so near me, were so drastically different. It became very clear, and in those places like New Orleans, like San Diego, you get visitors from those other cultures, and you get brief glimpses of their lands while they talk to you. So yeah, there's nothing that could replace my travel education, and I highly recommend anybody who gets a chance to travel to do that. If you're thinking about the difference between a vacation to Disneyland or to the Bahamas, or actually traveling somewhere interesting, just to walk around that city, like I don't care if it's Amsterdam, I don't care if it's Paris, but if like the choice is between Disneyland and someplace else that's kind of more worldly, do that second thing, do the more worldly thing. Don't go to Disneyland.
yeah, I agree 100%. I mean, that's honestly, dude, I've never been to Disneyland. I lived right down the street in Anaheim from Disneyland, and I never went. I never went to Disneyland in California. Never been there, not once. It's crazy, you know. I lived in Hollywood. I went to the Hollywood Bowl. I've been all over Hollywood, but Disneyland, it's like, yeah, it's not
Yeah.
me. But anyways,
Uh,
no,
I
it's. I hope. Go ahead.
I was gonna say I went twice, and we used hallucinogens both times, and I won't say I regret it. You go.
That's awesome. Heck yeah. No, yeah, no. I mean, what was I 2021 when I went to? I was stationed in Okinawa for a year and a half. I was all over Southeast Asia, dude. That was like Disneyland. It was crazy. You're 21, 22 years old, bro. It was insane. Then I came back here, uh, went all over the place, like everywhere. You know, and it's not just because I was stationed at Camp Lejeune. But from Camp Lejeune, I could get to Myrtle Beach. I could get to Savannah. I could get to Atlanta. I could get to Nashville. I could get to all these places and see all these things. It's still traveling. It's still like, whoa, 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 you know? And culturally speaking, in this country, if you're from Alabama and you've never been to New York, go to New York City, man. It'll open your eyes. If you're from New York City and you've never been to the Gulf Shores of Alabama, go. It's a completely different world, you know. If you're
Yeah.
from Atlanta, Georgia, and you've never been to San Diego, California, go. You know, you don't have to leave the country. There's so much to do in this country. You know what I mean? You could have such a good time in so many places. So that's where that's where I stand.
Yep. Same here. We
You
the
know,
next time we get a chance, we're gonna go to Maui. That'll be next year. So next year we're gonna find a good dog sitter and let them take advantage of the house here, and then we will go and see our friends Mike and JC out in Maui and see if we can help do something better for the community. We won't have a lot of money to do that with, but if they want us to pick up a hammer and work on something in Lahaina, I'm sure we will gladly do that. So,
that'd be great, dude. I mean, I'll probably wind up.
hold on, we got somebody ringing here. Okay, hold on. Yeah, the dogs go crazy anytime somebody comes to the door, and that was just a neighbor unexpectedly asking us to all have like kind of a neighborhood meeting, greeting, gathering kind of thing at the Ballet Under the Stars here in Oklahoma City. So I don't know. Sounds like a good time. Probably show up to it, but the dogs go nuts every time anybody interacts with the house. So sorry for all the listeners, all the watchers.
Dude, that's what's so good about this is like we're not in some at this point we're not in some hopefully we keep it as organic as possible.
Yeah,
Um,
those are
I mean,
my favorite podcasters are the ones who work out of their living room or at least started off that way, and they know how to be a little more casual. I'm not looking. I mean, I'll probably dress up a little bit better than a tank top once we start getting big time viewers. But
I don't think it matters, bro. I just don't think it just doesn't matter.
yeah, no,
No,
it
I'm
doesn't.
not.
It doesn't really like bother me at all. I like the casual people. I don't like the people who sit up there and pretend like they are already at the desk of CNN or something.
No, man.
That's not who I want to listen to in a podcast. So.
No, if you
Uh,
if you show up with a tie on, you're gonna be asked to leave.
okay.
Yeah.
Well, for any of our listeners who made it this far, I appreciate you listening to my dogs bark for the last 5 minutes of the podcast, and thanks for listening to American Micro. Rodney's made some really good headway on the website. We're going to be editing that together over the next week or two, but it's going to take us a couple months to get kind of everything put together so that it looks all super profesh and interactive.
Snazzy.
Snazzy. So thank you, Rodney, for getting that initiated. And we will talk to you guys in comments if you want to leave us a comment. Once we see comments at the bottom of our videos, we'll know that these are starting to hit people's algorithms, and we look forward to that. So let us know what you think, and we will respond back, or at least talk crap about you in the next podcast. So
Yeah.
we love you. My dogs love you. And Rodney, I will see you inside the studio in a minute.
All right, bro.
All right.